$10 million pedestrian bridge to connect Frank Brown Park to Aaron Besant Park. It's great for music festivals. It's the city's #1 priority this year. They've got a bunch of projects, and they plan to spend $236 million. 2 years ago, the budget for the city was only $42 million. That's why locals are paying so much more in assessments to the city. Mayor Sheldon says it's worth it. After all, he owns Gulf Coast Jam. The city's #1 priority will benefit his music festivals. He wants more state and federal grant money as a slush fund.
These are significant projects that will make a huge difference in our community. The first is to pursue any available state aid for the planning, design, and environmental studies related to a pedestrian bridge connecting Aaron Besant Park and Frank Brown Park. This walkover would link these two public parks and provide a safer avenue for our residents.
All right, I'm doing a special show tonight because of the urgency and the lack of information to the community. And it is about the persecution and the false, malicious prosecution of local attorney Hoot Crawford. I told you about this the other day. I'm going to show you some videos tonight and some testimony from depositions. The criminal trial of attorney Hoot Crawford is scheduled to begin Monday morning. And Sheriff Tommy Ford and his team arrested Hoot Crawford on May 6, 2022, saying that he essentially kidnapped a 16-year-old girl who said she was a victim of sexual assault, molestation by her teenage brother years ago in Tennessee. And the parents of that girl hired an attorney. And under Florida, the Constitution of Florida, there's an amendment known as Marsy's Law. And what it says is that if you are a victim of a crime, that you get certain protections. And one of those is you have the right to an attorney, especially if you invoke that right. And this family and this 16-year-old girl did invoke that right. So there was a voluntary questioning session by the Department of Children and Family Services, by their child protective team. It was a voluntary interview, and she went to the interview. She had said that her teenage brother had done this, and then she said that she just said that because she was mad. This all happened many years ago in another state, okay? But the Department of Children and Family Services, the sheriff's office, they really wanted to continue to interview this girl over and over and over, which is, by the way, against the circuit rules in the 14th Judicial Circuit. There's a rule that if you are a minor who's been sexually abused, that they can only interview you like 3 times because of the trauma that it induces. They don't want the victims to have to relive the trauma over and over. But the sheriff's office was determined to continue to keep interviewing this girl until they said what she wanted them to say, what they wanted her to say, rather. So she has a right to an attorney. She's invoked that right. And when they get to and you're going to see this, when they get to they do it at the Gulf Coast Children's Advocacy Center, which is not a government agency. It's I believe it's a nonprofit. And they were going to interview her there. So she shows up with her mom and her adoptive father, her stepfather, and attorney Hoot Crawford. And Hoot Crawford says, this is voluntary. It's just not compelled to do this, right? No, absolutely. All right, well, I'll be with her the whole time. And that's when the sheriff's office jumps in. You're going to see the video. You're going to see that video first. And in that video, you're going to see Lieutenant Jeremy Mathis standing over Hoot Crawford, just berating him, telling him that, you're not going to interfere with this investigation. And there's a rule, right? There's a policy here that when these voluntary forensic interviews take place, it's just the child and the team, right? It's not anybody else. No one else is allowed in there. That is the policy. Well, the Constitution, though, of the state of Florida says that she has the right to an attorney. And the sheriff's office, particularly Lieutenant Mathis, was really pissed off that Hoot Crawford, her lawyer, was there representing her at a voluntary interview and was basically speaking for her. He said that he was protecting the person who violated her, if indeed her brother even did. The girl's going through an emotional trauma, and I've seen video of her interacting with her attorney, Hoot Crawford, and she appears to like him very much and trust him very much. And he appears in the video that you haven't seen yet, that he appears that he's got her best interest at heart. I mean, there's no question about it. Now, the sheriff's office, through depositions, have said that she has the right to an attorney, but only if they're looking out for her. The sheriff's office has decided who is a good attorney and who's not a good attorney. And if you're not a good attorney, not looking out for the best interest of a potential minor who's been sexually assaulted, well, then they could just arrest you. And that's what they did. The whole thing comes down to whether or not it was a voluntary interview, but how quickly could the state, could DCF, after the sheriff's office made a phone call, how quickly can they put the girl in state custody, shelter her, and under what conditions? The answer is they need a court order, and there has to be immediate impending danger to the girl. But clearly there wasn't. She was there with her mom and adoptive stepfather who loves her, and their attorney. The sheriff's office snatched her away from them, arrested the attorney, and said that the attorney took her out of state custody from the Children's Advocacy Center, took her in his vehicle, ran over a DCF worker, which was a lie. You're going to see the video of that right now. And fled the scene. WMBB reported that with great vigor and drama, and it was a lie. You're going to see it was a lie. 2 days ago, the prosecutors dropped that. I'm going to show you part of the deposition from the DCF investigator who claimed that she got run over or struck by the vehicle. Wow. You are in for it tonight. I want you to be caught up on this because a local attorney was arrested for representing his client who had a constitutional right to be represented that she invoked. And the sheriff's office arrested him, took her in, did an interview with her. DCF did an interview with her. She didn't want to do it without him. They didn't tell her she had the right to a lawyer. And they asked her, what did you and your lawyer talk about? And they're saying, they being the state attorney, Larry Bassford, and Sheriff Tommy Ford, they are saying that Hoot Crawford is the danger and violated the law. Now, it's important to note that Hoot Crawford had expressed that he wanted to run for lead prosecutor, state attorney, against Larry Bassford. The last guy who said that was also arrested, Greg Wilson, on something nobody's arrested for. All right, I'm going to show you all this, and we're going to get to it right after this.
Have you received a speeding ticket for which you want no points placed onto your driving record? I'm El Saline, 850-215-0628. Let me help you.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
All right, the first thing I'm going to show you, I posted, you can watch it again because it's posted on my page. There it is. So what you see here is Those are Bay County Sheriff investigators. And the yellow shirt is the boss of those two guys. That's Lieutenant Jeremy Mathis. And the other guy is Investigator Fondren. Okay. Fondren was the lead on this case of this 16-year-old girl who had said that her brother had molested her years ago when they were kids, under 10 years old, and in another state. And it's being investigated in Florida by these guys. And so the family hired a lawyer. And what they've done here is Hoot Crawford was with the family, the mom and the stepfather, and the 16-year-old girl. And Lieutenant Jeremy Mathis here is furious. He says, you are not going to interfere with this investigation. The policy, basically what he's saying, he doesn't say this, but basically their argument is the policy here in this nonprofit, when DCF talks to a girl voluntarily, this is not compelled, this is a voluntary interview. Nobody else is allowed in there, not even their attorney. That's our rule. Well, that violates the Constitution of the state of Florida and Marsy's Law. But the sheriff's office claims that is not as that's overruled by their policy and the way they do things around here. So you're going to see this is pretty tense. Hoot Crawford is saying, I'm going to play it right now. And after this, a series of other things goes on, but basically they're free to leave. So Hoot Crawford takes the girl, and the DCF worker says she's being detained, in custody of the state. She's being sheltered. So she stands behind his vehicle to try to falsely imprison him so he can't move. Well, he backs up a little bit, drives over a curve, and he says, look, I'm going to be at my office. If you get a court order, you can come get her. The woman claimed that he ran her over, and you're going to see that video next.
I don't care. At this point, you are interfering with the investigation into a child molestation case. You're making statements in front of the girl that this is a mental health thing that never happened. Who's told you that? Who's told you that? Who? I mean, all we're going to do is sew up and you're just going to stare at me. You are interfering with an investigation at this point. So if all you're going to do is stare at me, what's the outcome here?
Tell me what my obligation is to answer your questions in a setting like this.
There's no obligation to answer
Then I'm not going
anything
to, I choose not to answer your
But
question.
what I'm trying to figure out is at what point do you think that you're helping this girl? Because you and I both know this is an end around to try to keep her brother from being charged. All it is.
You can certainly have your suspicions of whatever you want to have your suspicions of.
Okay, so just let the girl be molested, let her move on with her life, right? Right? I mean, I've known you and I've trusted you for years. You and I.
It's important to note that the allegations the girl made about her brother, if it happened, it happened many years ago, more than 5 years ago, in another state. The sheriff's office has no jurisdiction over this. They cannot investigate. This is not the thing. But the girl later said she didn't do it. The girl, according to court documents, and I hate saying this, but I need you to know, according to court documents, she was molested by her biological father, her estranged biological father. So she's got, understandably, this is a big deal, and she's going through mental trauma. And so they have an attorney. We don't know if the boy did it or not, but the boy's not around her, and the deputies are claiming they're investigating this outside of their jurisdiction. So what you have here is the sheriff's office berating an officer of the court representing a potential victim who, under Marsy's Law constitutional right, has invoked her right to an attorney. And they are saying, and they said in depositions, and they'll say during trial, that Hoot Crawford, as their attorney, was giving her bad representation and not looking out for her best interest. That's their argument. That's why they arrested him. And they say that in the depositions. America's a different place than it used to be. Who will be held accountable for this?
I have had multiple discussions. We've had very friendly discussions. We've had very friendly discussions when we had
today you
very
chose
much
to end
differences
that
in
friendship.
case.
Today
But
you come in here and decide to
no,
end it.
Hoot,
To
today
shit all
you
over it.
come in
You
here
didn't come in here like be a
interfering.
man and talk to me. You
Today
want to come in here
you come
screaming
in
and
here-
hollering and embarrassing me in
First
front of
off,
my
I haven't
client.
screamed and
I'm not going to
hollered
put
at
up with that.
all.
No bullshit.
First of all, you chose to come to the CAC and you chose not to allow somebody to be interviewed who has potentially been molested in the past. All indication that she's been molested in the past. You chose to interfere in that process. You have chosen to sit in here with my investigator and not allow, quote unquote, your client to answer questions.
It's not quote
For
unquote.
She
you to
obligated to
answer-
answer
Hold
your
on. It's not quote unquote your client. There's no question, and they all agreed in depositions that she has invoked the right to an attorney. It's not quote unquote her client. Do you see how dismissive they are about her having legal representation at a voluntary interview where they are free to leave? Watch.
allow, quote unquote, your client to answer questions.
Wow.
Is
For
she
you to
obligated to
answer
answer
them.
your questions?
In a child molestation interview, it would be nice if she answered questions.
I understand it. Is she obligated? Do you have a
Are
court
you-
order? Do you have a statute?
By the way, during depositions, Lieutenant Jeremy Mathis couldn't recall any of this stuff. I mean, he recalled a conversation, he recalled a few things, but he couldn't recall many details that it was interesting to see. He couldn't recall if he said, do I need to get a court order? Then he later said, well, I meant get a court order for DCF to take the custody of the child. What did he just say right there? The whole thing about the attorney, quote unquote, client. I mean, the deposition was a wreck.
That requires
Are
her to
you
say
obligated?
anything.
Is that what we need to do, Hoot?
Are
Do we need to
she
get
obligated
DCF?
to answer your questions,
Okay.
sir?
Do
I'm
we need
asking
to
you.
get
That's what I'm
DCF?
asking you.
Do we need
Is
to
she
get-
obligated? You said she could voluntarily talk
Do
to
we
you.
need
She has
to get-
chosen not to.
No, she didn't choose not to. You chose and her parents chose for her not to. Do we need to get DCF to shelter that child? Remove y'all from the CAC, her parents, yourself included, from the CAC, and then get an order to do an interview with her? Because we can do that all this afternoon if we need to.
I can't stop you from doing anything, Jeremy. You chose
All right.
to do what you chose to do.
No, you.
So what they're going to do is Jeremy Mathis is going to call his friend who is the local head honcho of the Department of Children and Family Services. And during that conversation, the head honcho, his buddy, says, okay, we're going to take custody of the girl. Now, while all that's going on, Hoot Crawford and the girl's family, they're talking and they end up, they're free to leave. So they're going to leave. Hoot says, look, she'll be at my office. If you guys get a court order, come get her. But right now she's got the right to an attorney and we're going to follow the law, So now they're, soon after that, DCF says that she's in immediate impending danger and they're going to snatch her right now, even before they get a court order, which they get in about an hour. Okay. They tell a judge that she's in impending immediate danger and the judge signs off on it, but that doesn't happen for at least more than an hour. So as Hoot tries to leave, this is the video that you're not going to believe and you haven't seen yet. For a year and a half, Sheriff Tommy Ford and the prosecutors and WMBB have said that Hoot Crawford ran over a DCF worker, struck her with his vehicle, causing bodily injury. She had to go be seen at the emergency room and fled the scene of that crash with an injury and recklessly drove with the teenage girl, and they followed him and pulled him over before he got to his office. He kept saying, I'll be at my office, I'll be at my office. Listen how many times he tells the DCF worker, I'll be at my office. In deposition, she couldn't recall where he was going. All right, so let me put this up, and you can see. This is the craziest video. Why would Sheriff Ford and the state attorney, Larry Bassford, why would they say this about Hoot Crawford? Why would they claim that he struck her with his vehicle and fled the scene for a year and a half and then drop it a few days before the trial? Why would they do that? I'm going to show you that video in just a moment. Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. Okay. You know, I'm going to show you, and I should have done it earlier, but I can do it right now. I'm going to show you, if you want to read about this, if you want to read the depositions and read the charges against Hoot Crawford, I'm going to show you where you can do that. All right, I'm going to put this. Oh, I did. I put it right here. Here you go. You just go to the clerk of court, the Bay County clerk of court. Type in Bay County clerk of court. It'll take you there. Then you search cases. And when you search cases, search it by case rather than by name. But now, if you can't find it, and you can write this down. If you can't find it, then search it by Crawford, comma, space, Joe. I'm sorry, Billy. All right. They make it hard to find, and I don't know what's going on there. But if you can't find it with the case number, then you have to type in this. Listen here. Crawford, comma, space, Billy. And then you should be able to find it. It's the open case. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You go about half, it's the open case. Hopefully you'll be able to find it because you can read all the evidence, and it's amazing why they're doing this. So, all right, let's get back to the video. And this is the surveillance video. Oh, wow. This is the surveillance video outside the Gulf Coast Children's Advocacy Center, okay? The white car to the right facing us, that small SUV type vehicle, that's Hoot Crawford's vehicle, okay? All the way to the left behind the bushes, Hoot Crawford is with the girl and two DCF workers. You're going to hear Hoot Crawford say, look, because they said they could go, then they said she's in state custody all of a sudden, and then they say, get in the car, we're going to go to DCF, Hoot's going to go with them. Then they say, no, Hoot, you can't be here. And Hoot said, look, you guys do not have a court order. I'm taking her to my office. Listen how many times he says, I'm taking her to my office. When the DCF worker later gets deposed or gets questioned about it, she says she doesn't know where they were going. I'm taking her to my office. If you get a court order, you can come get her. But this DCF investigator is going to pretend that Hoot Crawford backs into her and runs her over, and she's going to 3 days later go to the emergency room and claim she has injuries. Watch close. The DCF worker in question here is the thin woman in dark clothing. Okay, that's the one who's going to stand behind Hoot Crawford's car and pretend she got hit by a car and was injured. And the sheriff's office and the state attorney for a year and a half and WMBB have made that claim, which is, you're going to see, is a complete lie. Here we go.
Very kindly to get a judge to order it. Please, I'll be at my office. She'll be there with me. I'll be at my office. She'll be there with me. I'm not going to play lie to see. Sam, you'll have to clear one of us by the arm. Around. Use physical force, because we're going to walk away from this right now. You haven't shown us any authority whatsoever.
Okay, so you see right now the thin, the woman there carrying the heavy bag in the dark clothing. She's the one who pretends that she gets run over and makes that claim. And the other lady, she's going to run back because of the grave danger the child is in with her attorney. But watch the thin woman in dark clothing. Watch her stand behind Hoot Vehicle's car. Watch how badly she's injured in this incident as she tries to falsely imprison him. She thinks if she blocks the vehicle, he can't leave. Watch.
You haven't shown us any authority whatsoever. You didn't have a seat, please. We'll be at my office. We'll be at my office. That's enough of the threats.
He's going to try to back out. She's standing there, so he has to stop. Okay, he stops, and then he's going to go forward. Watch how badly she's injured. She got run over. And 3 days later, she goes to the emergency room. Watch.
I'll be at my office, just like I told him.
Okay, she says she was struck and injured so bad she had to go to the emergency room 3 days later. She was on workers' comp for more than 4 months. She's going to walk back from the right and come around, okay? Let's see if she looks injured enough to go on 4 months of workers' comp and go to the emergency room and have a man charged for running her over. When she was questioned, she said she couldn't remember if she was hurt or not, but there was a red mark, she said, on her elbow, and over the weekend it became so bad, her neck, her shoulder, and everything, that she had to go to, she took 4 months, I think 5, of workers' comp. Now, the sheriff's office saw that. State Attorney Larry Bassford saw that, yet they all made up the lie. I remember seeing it on WMBB, hearing about it. I thought, oh my God, Hoot Crawford struck a DCF worker while he was stealing a kid out of state custody. She wasn't in state custody. They said she was, but they didn't have a court order yet. What did Hoot say? I'll be at my office. He's an officer of the court. She has invoked her right to an attorney. She's a victim under the rules of Marcy's Law, constitutional amendment. And just a couple of days ago, they dropped the bullshit charge that he struck her with his vehicle and injured her and then fled recklessly. They dropped it. Now the only thing he's being charged with is interfering with the custody of a child. Unbelievable. And tampering with a witness/victim. And that was added by Larry Bassford, state attorney. They just added that. So what they did was they arrested her lawyer, took her back there. DCF questioned her. She didn't want to be without her attorney. Then the sheriff's office questioned her and asked her what she and Hoot had talked about, what you and your attorney had talked about. Now, who does it sound to you like committed crimes here? Why did they do this to Hoot Crawford? A well-known and well-liked attorney who said he was going to run for state attorney, the lead prosecutor, and then this happens. All right, so I wanted you to see this. This is all the latest information, and the trial is set to begin on Monday morning. We'll be covering it, but I'm just beside myself that Sheriff Tommy Ford and State Attorney Larry Bassford have spent this much time and energy and resources saying that that a local attorney, Hoot Crawford, who was representing his client, is such a threat to society and to that girl that he needs to go to state prison and lose his law license. Why do you think they're doing that? Unbelievable. All right, I want to thank the Unknown Patriot for your support. As always, I want to also thank those of you who throw a tip in the tip jar. Patreon.com/Bernie Thompson, $5 a month. Crowdfunding is one of the biggest ways that we make this thing happen here. And if you want to become a patron, it is anonymous, it's easy, and you can quit at any time. And without you all, I could not bring you the truth. Could you imagine if I worked at WMBB and Tom Huey Lewis in the news was my boss? Yeah, this story would probably never get out. All right, more to follow. I'll see you soon.